And we're here with Conor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, doing swell. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Went to the gym for the first time this morning in a long time. Back home from college, stepped on the scale, realized I wasn't that much more than I normally am, but I was like, I'm feeling around my stomach. I was like, this isn't, I definitely have not been eating well and treating my body well over the past couple months. So I said, I got to jump back into the gym. First time I've been there since 2020 or since early 2020 because of COVID. So it felt weird to be back in like a gym area. It was like, damn. And then doing it with the mask, it is tough. Not
It
easy
is
working out with a
tough.
mask.
It is quite the adjustment, but Godspeed in your endeavors.
Oh yes, gonna be showing up to the Stanley Cup jacked. You know how it is.
Of course.
Anyways, into Bruins news. The Bruins beat the Capitals Sunday night. Beat them in 5. You were correct. And I'm glad people are pointing it out on Twitter because I don't think people understand. When you do predictions, first of all, they're mostly wrong. It's hard
Of
to be right
course.
with a lot of these. But second off, when you actually guess that a series is going to go short and it does, it is incredibly rare. Again, like most people will say, team in 7. I said Bruins in 6 because I was like, I want to be edgy, but not too edgy. But you were like,
Yeah.
no, you dove in. You're like Bruins in 5. So Godspeed to you, sir, for being right. I think now we need to really listen to you for the Penguin for who the Bruins play next, which we'll get to later in the episode. First, so I want to deal with why the Bruins beat the Caps in 5. There's a lot of reasons, and I know we'll go over all of them. But I think one of the biggest was Tuukka Rask got better as this series went along. Game 1, he was a little shaky. Game 2, he was solid. 3, better. 4, better. 5, maybe the best he's looked all year. That's not good for other teams.
No, no, not at all. I mean, I think it was Bruin Stats, who's obviously a great follow on Twitter for anyone who wants great insight. I think tweeted after Game 5 that I'm pretty sure Ras expected goals saved. I think was the stat. Maybe every single game I think went up as it went on. I mean, obviously look at just the eye test, and you finish with 40 saves on 41 shots. Of course, it's going to be a great kind of stamp on a great series for a goaltender. But yeah, no, as you said, I think Rask every single game got better and better. And I mean, even if you look back on this series and the goals that he let up, I mean, how many of them was he beat clean? You really didn't have one. You didn't have any goals like Bergeron's first goal against Samsonov in Game 5. Where you're like, oh, okay, well, you can't have that. But even then, wasn't any, like a one timer or a shot from the slot or any grade A ice. There wasn't anything like that. I mean, maybe Wilson snipe, a few of those. Like, I'm struggling to think of chances where it wasn't a deflection or, Ovechkin's power play goal in Game 4, bounces off Brendan Carlo. Like that, there was rarely a time where Rask was beat clean in the series. And again, when you look at the Bruins and the way they matched up against the Capitals and how much of a mismatch it was, especially just in terms of defense, in terms of how the Capitals were going to have their hands full containing both the Bergeron line and the Krejci line. When you also have a guy in net and Rask that's getting better and better, that's locked in, that's tracking the puck well. Yeah, it makes a series like this almost insurmountable if you're the Capitals because that mismatch was just so severe in net.
Yeah, and he looks so locked in. You really look. I mean, you look at the way he's playing, and the save on Sheary in Game 5. He's locked in. Like I really believe this is a postseason where you're going to see Tuukka Rask carrying the Bruins in a lot of different areas, which again you need out of your goaltender. But I think he's going to really be showing it in the upcoming series. Speaking of top players, I think in general your top players played like your top players. You had 2 really good offensive lines. Your fourth line played pretty well. Your third line was okay. DeBrusk had some early goals. And then your top defenseman played like their top defenseman. Charlie McAvoy was incredible this series. And this is advanced stat, the eye test. I mean, after Game 4, he led. I was going through a natural stat trick, kind of just refreshing every category.
Mm-hmm.
He led in like every single one almost. And obviously, yeah, they'd played more games than other teams, but there were other teams with the same amount of games with guys way down the leaderboard. So just all around a really good series from them. And you look at the stats right now. David Pastrnak, he was shaky to start. He got a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
What does this mean though? Does this continue?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of positives to build off of. I mean, and you kind of look at the overall numbers, and yes, David Pastrnak led the Bruins in scoring, which if maybe you looked at his game in games 1 or 2, you're probably like, how did he get to this point? But he got more confident as the series went on. I mean, I think you look at that highlight reel goal he had in game 5 where he just, dekes out Dowd, reads a man-to-man defense that the Capitals had and just exposed it, had Nick Jensen watching, as he went and tucked that past Samsonov. To play that one is not only just a smart heads up play, but also I think a play you only make if you're very confident with the puck and, kind of falling into the groove, which seems like Pastrnak is doing. But you look at the rest of the key players for the Bruins, all of them, showed up and did what they had to do to win this series, whether that's, as you said, McAvoy was fantastic. Bergeron had a game that I think we're not surprised of at this point, right, in terms of a clinching game, but he was tremendous in game 5. But I think probably the most encouraging thing is, we look at this top 6 and, it's almost expected at this point that they're going to play well and they're going to get their points as expected. But I think when you look at how some other guys can kind of build off this series, whether that's Jake DeBrusk, scoring a couple of goals and getting going, whether it be that fourth line who played a really strong game those last 2 games, especially kind of matching the Capitals' physicality. Smaller defensemen, I think going into the series, people were terrified of how guys like Mike Riley and Matt Grzelcyk would fare against this big physical Capitals team, and they held their own. And played to their strengths and avoided kind of getting knocked around by the Capitals forecheckers. Look at Connor Clifton, who I think probably behind McAvoy was maybe their most impactful defenseman. I mean, he was unreal. I mean, I think he had less than 30% of his faceoffs from the offensive zone, and the Bruins outscored the Capitals 3-0 when he was on the ice.
He's sort of like he's like the Sean Crowley of the back end, where he's not always like Sean Crowley only scores big goals. Connor Clifton only plays amazing in like big games in the playoffs. Right. Like Connor Clifton is at his complete best when it's just playoff hockey.
Right. And for him too, it wasn't like he was even, he had a lot of D zone stats, but it wasn't like he was matched up against, the Lars Eller line or something. Like he was up against like Ovechkin and the Capitals' big guns. And for the Bruins, not only to have so many guys, pull on the rope and contribute offensively, but also really limit the Capitals on the other end of the ice. I mean, we were expecting this series, a lot of, 6-5 games or what have you. Other than Wilson's goal in game 1, I think that was the only even strength goal from a top 6 guy. Like Ovechkin had I think 4 points in 5 games, but I think almost all of them were on the power play. So, Backstrom was a ghost. Kuznetsov looks like a guy who had COVID twice and looks like I can see now why Washington wants to get rid of Kuznetsov, because what a stupid penalty he had. What a stupid play to negate that goal for them. I think Oshie definitely was fighting something. So you put it all together and it seemed like it was a kind of a perfect storm that one of the Bruins were able to take advantage of, because again, it was 5 games, but they really weren't, after you get past those first couple overtimes, those games really weren't close ever since overtime of game 3.
And the Capitals came into this series hurt. There were a lot of guys who had nagging injuries. The Bruins, on the other hand, were at their most healthy. So it really is, and it goes to show also, and I tweeted this, since the trade deadline, I almost look at this season in 2 parts. The first part was pre-trade deadline, where they just kind of were very mediocre. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of that's why they were a 3 seed in the East. But since the trade deadline, first of all, they were the best team in the Eastern Division, almost by far. And then you add on top of that, in the NHL, they had they were tied for the most wins in that time with the Golden Knights. So again, as people know, when it comes to the playoffs, it's all about the hottest teams. The hottest teams typically do the best. The Bruins are maybe the hottest team in the NHL, aside from the Golden Knights and the Avalanche. You're right there. Like, you are right there. And that reflected itself. And the Capitals weren't hot. And I think that and that's why this layoff, as we remember from the 2019 Cup final, you get a little worried that, things might get off, but also it gives you time to get a little healthy, take a little rest, watch the rest of the playoffs, or the rest of the first round, because there's still time with that. Next, who they play. So obviously it's either the Islanders or the Penguins. That series is not going 5 games. That's going well past it. Currently tied 2-2 as we record this on Monday. Game 5 is Monday night, right? So that. Yeah. Oh, I can't believe what happened. Oh my God. Did you see that play, Connor? Holy crap. Yeah, that was crazy. Whoa. But I'm glad, by the way, side note, really glad we're recording this. I was rooting for the Bruins to win Sunday. So then we record Monday. It wasn't like, yeah. I was like, if we had to do that, I would have been dreading it. So thank God that we actually have a somewhat more relevant podcast and stuff to actually talk about. But Penguins Islanders, the big question now is, who would you rather play? Would you rather play Pittsburgh or would you rather play the Islanders?
I mean, it's kind of a tough call. I mean, they're both kind of very different teams. Obviously, I think we're both going to do probably deeper dives as the week goes on. I think, leading off, I think the Bruins should win either series. I think, even though both teams kind of present a different kind of matchup to the Bruins. For as much as I think a lot of people want to play Pittsburgh, because I think they're so terrified of how the Islanders played them through the first couple of games. I think you have to look back at how they were post deadline, and they matched up pretty well against the Islanders, during that stretch. I think you look at Pittsburgh. Yes, is Tristan Jarry a fantastic goaltender? No, but I think if you look at Pittsburgh, where especially they're getting healthy and guys like Malkin are coming back, their power play is rounding back into form. I think they present a tougher matchup if they're playing to their level, as opposed. I think the Islanders are going to be maybe a tougher. I think the Islanders are an automatic 6-game series, just the way they play. Once they pack it in and they have a better tandem in net. But I think the Penguins, if they're playing to their level, they're a team that can frustrate you, that can beat you through cycling the puck. Obviously, the guys they have down the middle, but they also play a very aggressive 1-3-1 where they, frustrate the hell out of you. And all of a sudden Crosby's setting up Gensel for a one-timer, in your own zone. They can kind of switch the momentum very quickly there. And they also have, they kind of like the Capitals a little bit in that, they probably have a stronger structure, but also have a very good fourth line that maybe isn't as dynamic as guys like Dowd and Hathaway, but guys like Tanev, Aston Reese are all very, very good shutdown fourth liners that could probably give your team some fits as well. So again, both very different teams. You could make the argument that maybe the Bruins are better suited for Pittsburgh because of just the fact that it would be less of a size physical battle and more of just, solving that 1-3-1 and dealing with their speed and accounting for their big guns. But I think if you want to look at who the Bruins would rather play, I think the Islanders have kind of a lower ceiling in terms of, what you're going to get from them. They're going to grind it out, but I think you have more firepower than them in terms of just, again, they can do what they can to lock down maybe the Bergeron line, but you've got the Krejci line, you've got other groups that are playing very well. So again, I think both those series are going at least 6 games, but I would probably rather play the Islanders at this point. But I could very much flip-flop on this decision by the time I do the official predictions because they're both so different.
So I was going to say, I'm a little conflicted because on the one hand, you have the Islanders who you had a tougher time against during the regular season. They're very structured, as you said. You know what you're going to get. They're a tough team to play against. But what I just said about the Bruins being super hot, the Islanders were not. Since the deadline, even after they got Zajac and Palmieri, who did borderline nothing for them, 7-8-3, including playoffs. So not great. That's not a hot team. That's a team that's on the downtrend. That's not a stock you invest in. Or maybe it is actually. Maybe you do invest when it's low.
You got to buy the dip, Evan.
Buy the dip. Never mind. Buy the dip. Don't listen to me. Buy the dip. But on the other hand, you have the Penguins, who are hot and have the potential to be really, really good. But they also have the potential to be really, really bad. Can Jeff Carter score 1 million goals forever? Can Mike Matheson and Cody Ceci hold up as they've sort of done all season forever? Probably not, but probably also. So, and the other thing is in net, you got Tristan Jarry, who is not amazing, not great. And you look at this series with the Capitals, and aside, take away the first 2 games with Craig Anderson, the Bruins capitalized on mistakes by Samsonov. The Bruins, you could make an argument the Bruins maybe won this series based on exposing that matchup. You have the Craig Smith overtime goal with Samsonov. That was game 3. So that in game 3. You also have Bergeron's first goal in game 5 that just beats him clean. And you have these little plays where, is that going to, there's a better chance of those going in against Jari than there is of Sorokin and Varlamov. And it's probably going to be Sorokin. So I'm conflicted because there's such different teams and there's different advantages with both. There's different disadvantages with both. And again, like I think the East is so close in talent. But I agree with you. I think the Bruins should win either series. I'm not saying a number. I'll say if the Islanders, we'll say Bruins in 4. That's what I say. Bruins in 4.
There you go. You remember, just go bold now.
Gotta go bold. I remember my first podcast series prediction was with the Hurricanes in 2019 in the conference final. And I remember thinking, oh, this is going 7. This is, the Hurricanes are a good young team and they're interesting. And I think it's going to go 7 because I had a Hurricanes writer on who like basically convinced me over the episode that the Hurricanes are actually kind of good. So I was young and dumb and I was like, well, maybe he's got a point. I'll say Bruins in 7. Bruins obviously won that series in 4 and it was never that close. But yes, I think it's going to be interesting whoever they play. And I'll say this because we mentioned this also. Full capacity crowds. If the Garden is not, if people aren't screaming for 60 minutes straight, literally just yell for 60. Don't yell at nothing. You could be a Blues fan coming in. You could be a Coyotes fan. If you're not just yelling for 60 straight minutes, what the hell are you even doing?
It's gonna be wild. I mean, for considering just how jarring it was, I was looking back at video from like January that I recorded up in the press box where it was just like a regular play, game action, and it was so like the artificial noise they pumped in was so like dystopian and bizarre that I'm sure I'll probably loop that with what we're gonna hear once whoever they play, whether it's game 1 or game 3, is going to be quite the departure from what it was just a few months ago, which is great to see. I think Bruins fans, one, should be excited just to be back in the building, even if you're drinking $14, Rebel IPAs or whatever the hell they serve now. I think it's still going to be a great time. Weather's great. It's going to be a good summer. And again, I think this Bruins team has the personnel and the means to go on a pretty legitimate run here. So it's going to be a great time whenever we find out when they're going to be playing next on Causeway Street.
This feels like it could be their year. Feels there's giving off those vibes a little bit. Not gonna dive right into that yet.
Let's see who gets out of these other divisions first, because there's some bad guys out.
Hey, if it's Winnipeg and
if it's like Winnipeg and like the Predators and if the Predators somehow go on a crazy run and get out of the Central, and the Wild going on a run in the West, then we can talk about it. But if like all three, if like one of Vegas and Colorado and one of Tampa gets out, then you have to look at it and be like, this is gonna be a little tough. Not count them out. Like they're better equipped than years past to match up against, I think, some of those teams that either are more skilled or a team like Tampa that has given them problems in the past. But that's obviously a debate for another day. But it would help them quite a bit if a few of those juggernauts out in the Central and the West don't make it out of their division.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Maybe a mulligan for 2019.
Yes,
but yes. Anyways, excited for the full crowds. And again, I think this is a situation where the ticket prices are probably going to be pretty high. I don't know them yet. They're probably going to be pretty high. It's worth it. It's worth it. You've been inside for all these months. You haven't been paying for sporting events. Go all out for this. Go to one game. Go all out for this. I know we're not like with the team or anything. I don't care. But like I want to see this place packed. If you're a diehard fan, you've been saving money for all these months. Buy the tickets. Buy the tickets. I know it's annoying, and and that comes from a place of where you don't have to. So I guess that's a good thing for us. And it sounds like I have no idea what I'm talking about. But if I was just a college kid and I didn't even have much money, I would be going to these games, or one at least, because it's gonna be loud. It's gonna be fun, and it better be crazy. But
it's gonna be great.
Anyways, it could be full of Penguins fans, and it's still like I just want to be in a full crowd. Give me craziness. At any rate, though, Connor, before I let you go, is there anything that you would like to plug?
Yeah, we're going to be obviously getting some leftover thoughts on this Bruins Capital series, and then in the days ahead, whether it's the Islanders or the Penguins, we're going to be breaking down that series as well, leading into the second round. So all that stuff will be over at BSJ. So subscribe there, BostonSportsJournal.com. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do that at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that for CLNS Media. I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Bruins Beat listeners have an amazing rest of your week.